Start your week with a triple shot of good vibes. This is the Project Joy Podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas. Thanks for joining me. And now it's time for this week's story of joy. I have so much joy to share as we have been really getting used to and getting to know our new space of residence about 4 hours or so north of where we have lived for the last 12 years. And I really, as I mentioned on previous episodes, was shocked about where we'd be moving. It wasn't somewhere that I expected. And I wasn't 100% open to it, other than the fact that it was more north than we have been. And I like the cooler weather. It's been cooler here. Yay, I'm excited. That's part of my joy here. Though I hear around the world today that there's a lot of snow happening. It's May 11th, and a lot of people unhappy about that. Can't help you with that part, but I am happier for the cool. It's something that, you know, when you live in a place that is very hot the majority of the year, and you're already a hot-natured person, it gets really old really fast. So there's an appreciation that grows for the cooler weather. And I think I've always kind of had that growing up in New England. I loved the snow and I loved the cooler weather, but I will admit that snow in May is a little crazy. But so I'm sorry for all of you that are dealing with the snow right now and don't like it. But yeah, so my joy this week really comes from having such a beautiful experience where we are so far. I'm really enjoying the house that we're in, but I really am enjoying the people. It's, you know, a lot of times we say we can feel energy from people, and the energy that I've experienced from the people here where we've moved has been so wonderful. There's such a genuine nature and energy behind each and every person that we've met, that, you know, not fake. Like, this is, I'm really kind. I really care. I really, you know, appreciate you and our time together. There's just that feeling behind every single person you meet, from, you know, somebody in the grocery store. We've had 3 instances, you guys, of people talking in traffic. Like, we'll be at a stoplight and someone will have their windows down and we'll have their windows down, and it'll just erupt into a conversation. And I don't listen. Part of that is that my husband is definitely a conversationalist, but it's, you know, just random things. Well, we talked to a woman yesterday that had her, you know, her top down in her sports car and in her convertible. And we had a conversation with her, had a conversation with another woman who had her window down and her dog was so cute. And we had commented about it. And she mentioned that her husband had died recently. And so it's just been her and her little dog. And it was just the most beautiful, genuine, heartfelt conversation that you could possibly have at a stoplight. And so everybody's just been so nice, so genuine. Our new neighbor over here, well, we're the new neighbor, but our neighbor brought some juice and fruit snacks over for the kids. And, you know, she had we're at the time of this recording, you know, we're still people being really careful because of COVID-19, but she came over, she had her mask on, she put him in the driveway kind of thing. It was a very, very odd way to meet your neighbors. But at any rate, just the energy behind everyone has been wonderful. We found many restaurants that have a vegan menu. We're a plant-based family. And so we found lots of places we can eat out. We have found, you know, just amazing things all around that are just so much fun, including a farmer's market just a couple miles from our house that right now it's 1 day a week, but it's going to several days a week. I've also found out that there are people that I know who I didn't realize grew up in this area or have lived in this area for a long time. So it's just been such a cool experience here so far. And I look forward to everything that this area brings us. And I'm keeping an open mind about creating a circle of relationships in the flesh here in this area as time goes on. We'll be back in just a minute for more of the Project Joy podcast. The truth is, I never thought being on a journey of self-improvement would be lonely. I thought I'm going to work on myself personally, get in touch with what spirituality and faith truly means to me, and allow these tweaks and changes to make me a better person and spill over into my work, and the world will be a better place, the end. I didn't know how hard it would be when the majority of people around me just didn't understand what I was doing or why. I was really missing that support of other people who not only held the space for me to explore and grow on life's journey, but that were committed to making the world a better place through their own self-improvement as well. I've got the perfect space for you to do just that in my Soul Connection Collective. It's the safe space for you to learn and grow personally and spiritually while connecting with soulmate friends who can make your life easier, more fun, and hold you accountable on your journey. Join us today by visiting jessicadugas.com and clicking Soul Connection Collective, or just click the link in our show notes. And now back to the podcast. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Project Joy podcast with your host, Jessica Dugas. We are talking about joy in feminine energy today. Now, before you hang up, any gentlemen that are listening, I'm going to say it one time. Every single person on this planet has masculine and feminine energy, no matter which way you identify, no matter what you were born as, none of it matters. We all have masculine and feminine energy qualities. So I promise you that whether you're a man, woman, however you identify, you're going to get something out of this podcast today. So we're talking about joy in feminine energy. And of course, the reason we're talking about this today is because we celebrated in the United States here and also Canada, and I'm sure other countries as well, Mother's Day. And it's a holiday that can be a challenging one for some people who may have either they're a mom and have issues with the relationship with their children, or they're a mom or they're, just a person and have issues with the relationship with their mother. That can really make it a day that can be complicated for some people. And in addition to the fact that some people have lost their moms, or their stepmoms, or the mothering person in their lives, that have gone into the spirit world. And so it can be an emotional day for those people as well. But one of the reasons that I really wanted to talk about the characteristics and finding joy in the feminine today is because even as I mentioned, every single one of us has masculine and feminine energy within us. And so even if you have those issues that I mentioned, whether it's issues with your children, issues with the person that was the mother in your life, or if your mother or mother figure has passed on and it's an emotional day for you, you can always use the day as a day to honor the feminine within you. That's what I feel like. It can be a difficult day, yes, but it's like everything else. Everything can be difficult, guys. Okay. Every single thing can be difficult, but we can choose to find the joy. And that's what this episode is all about. What this podcast is all about, is finding the joy. So we can choose to find the joy and find a way to be joyful on that day. And one of those ways is to look at the characteristics of feminine energy and find the joy within it. So I was looking at this article from divinefemininealchemy.org, and I will, as usual, link that article in the show notes below. But they were talking about 7 characteristics of feminine energy. And again, as I mentioned, it's across, genders, it's across species, it's feminine and masculine energy is a part of everything. So the first one is creativity. And creativity is part of the divine feminine. If you are someone who it feels like you're a really creative person, you have a lot of ideas, you like to create things, that creativity is part of the feminine energy and is something really to find joy in, because that's how everything, you think about it, every single thing in the world is created. When we think about, a human, it's created through, obviously, masculine and feminine there, but through the mother, through the feminine, it's created, it's grown in the mother's womb and created in that way. So that's a very feminine. It's a very feminine quality, creativity. Whether it's there's different things that you can do to cultivate that creativity: cooking, taking care of children, gardening, painting, singing, dancing, laughing, meditating, giving birth. Those are all part of the created or creativity in feminine energy. The next one that they list is warrior spirit. And I love that. Talking about pushing through things, not necessarily pushing through, but taking on that warrior. It seems contrary to what the feminine energy would be, but it really is not. It's that, so I think of it like as mama bear. A lot of people say, mama very, very protective of the children. I see that as very, very, a feminine quality. Number 3 is having a deep sense of justice, balance, and morality. I love that as a feminine quality. And again, it brings that mama bear energy to the surface. So again, guys, if you're listening, any men that are listening to this episode, you may see that a lot of these qualities that you possess, and that just means that you're well in touch with your feminine energy, right? Another thing that is passive resistance, and the particular paragraph on this characteristic says, I don't know many women who prefer a heated debate over peace and tranquility. So if you tend to be someone who gets fired up about things a lot more easily and doesn't, maybe has difficulty tapping into peace and tranquility, it could be because you're not as tapped into that feminine energy. You're more in your masculine, right? Being more aware of thoughts and feelings. That's number 5. More aware of your thoughts and feelings, more in touch with your intuitions, more in touch with your emotion. That's something that's very, very feminine. That's why I think a lot of, women are pegged as being more emotional. And that's why I think a lot of men can be picked on or looked down upon for being more emotional, because it is a feminine quality. But as I've said, if you're a man who resonates with being a more emotional being, it just means you're more in touch with your feminine, and there's nothing wrong with that. And if you're a woman who's not very emotional, it just means you're more in touch with your masculine, and there's nothing wrong with that either. It's just that awareness of what do you have as part of your being. Also, a very feminine thing to quality to possess is having a many-sided personality. We play many roles in our lives. Think about today, how much joy it brings you to play different roles in your life. You might be a mother, you're a daughter, you're a sister, you're a wife, you're a girlfriend, you're a mentor, you might be a a worker somewhere. You might be an entrepreneur. You might be, what about the different creative qualities you have? Maybe you're a dancer, maybe you're an artist. And in addition to having all of these roles that we play, or having a lot of roles that we look at in this feminine quality, is also the ability to shapeshift. And this is really funny because this is a conversation that my husband and I have had. He's been in sales for a long time, over 20 years, and very good at sales. And sales can be a very masculine workspace to be in, because it's very, in your face, very out there, very push. People think of salespeople as pushy. But we've talked about the fact that he has to be a shapeshifter in sales. And that's just meaning to be able to relate to and be a chameleon, if you will, with customers. And so that's actually, that part of that is a very feminine quality. It's about understanding the role that you play in whatever moment and being able to shift to that. So that's a really cool feminine quality to recognize in a very masculine sales force kind of work, right? And the last quality that it mentions in this particular article is feeling the need to self-sacrifice to remain virtuous. And the article talks about no such thing as a sacrifice, that everything is an energetic exchange, but it's about, not putting yourself first. I want to just read this. It's saying, when it seems like you're carrying the load for someone else, you are really projecting a reality you've likely been living in for a long time. As an alchemist of the divine feminine energy, it is your job to absorb unconsciousness and transform it. By choosing to quote unquote sacrifice, we're energetically saying either I can handle more as I am stronger and am more equipped, or I am too weak to say no because it seems that circumstances are out of my control. Either way, this is a self-centered reality you're experiencing. It talks about on an energetic level, we give gratitude and receive worship devotion through another person's gratitude. Without proper cultivation and understanding of universal law, we end up taking more than we're giving off by feeling entitled to praise through our quote unquote sacrifice. So this is really something that you could dig in deeper to. And again, I will post it in the show notes, and you guys can jump right down that rabbit hole if you'd like to. But one thing I want to bring up really quickly before we finish up today is another article that I found from theladiescoach.com that talks about ways to release blocked feminine energy. If you're feeling like, listen, I'm not creative, I'm not feeling creative, I'm not feeling aware of my feelings, I'm feeling really hot-headed and less peaceful these days, whatever it is that you feel unconnected to that feminine energy, there are lots of different ways that you can sort of connect with that energy. And these are the 5 ideas that theladiescoach.com shared. They talked about dancing. So moving your body, that's number 1. Number 2, it talks about adornment. It talks about dressing up, whether you're dressing up yourself or dressing up your home. That's a great way to connect to your feminine energy. The third one I really love because it feeds my Aquarian soul, and that's free days. Finding, joy in not planning your day and just going with the flow, just letting it go. Having a self-care day, really just, going with whatever comes up. Number 4, creativity. Do something creative. Craft, paint, dance, make clothing, crochet, garden, entertain. Whatever you need to do to express your creativity, do that, and you'll connect more to the feminine. And number 5, of course, sensuality. Our bodies hold a lot of power, and being sensual is a wonderful way to connect with the feminine. And I don't just mean in a sensual and a sexual way, but experiencing deep pleasure. So taking a warm bath, making yourself feel sensual with things like candle, having a glass of wine, having a little treat like dark chocolate or something like that. Lots of different ways that you can be sensual by really experiencing sensuality with all your senses. So as you can tell, there's so many ways that you can connect with the joy of feminine energy. And I would encourage you to think about that over the next week, and say to yourself, how can I connect more with the feminine? And do I need to connect more with the feminine? Whether you're male or female, do I need to connect with more of that feminine energy? And how can it help me in my life? We'll be back in just a minute with more of the Project Joy podcast. If you love the Project Joy podcast, you'll love my weekly talk show, The Breakthrough Show. It's the talk show for spiritual and personal development, changing how you look at and live your life. We've got incredible topics, guests, and entertainers that will inspire you to live your best life. Join us every Friday morning at 9 a.m. Central Time. Find out more information and tune in every Friday by visiting us at thebreakthroughshow.com or by finding the link in our show notes. And now back to the podcast. Up next week on the Project Joy podcast, we're going to be talking about joy in creativity, which is beautiful on the heels of talking about joy in the feminine. But how can we find more joy in the creative and learn how that finding joy in the creative and being creative actually breeds more creativity? So definitely listen to this if you feel like you're in a creative rut or you just want new ideas on how to find more joy and creativity. And we'll be talking about that next week. Thank you guys so much for listening today. Please take a moment to rate, subscribe, comment, and share where available. And until next time, make joy a priority in your life today and every day. We'll see you on the next episode. You've been listening to the Project Joy podcast with your host, Jessica Dugas. We'll see you again next Monday and every Monday for another episode to start your week off right.